there's supposed to be all these stages that you go through when something dies. I've certainly grieved for what used to be my country quite a lot. But now I think I feel free to smile a bit at the idiotic way in which people behave. I mean, the idea that Theresa May was ever fitted to be Prime Minister of a major country always seemed to me to be very, very questionable.
When did you decide that you weren't going to have an effect on people?
During the 2010 election, when I had dedicated the previous several years to urging everybody I could get hold of and everybody whose lapels I could seize and whose ears I could bash, that the only way in which the country could conceivably be rescued was if the Conservative Party were thoroughly destroyed. And even if my thesis turns out to be correct again in the future, I'm not going to be around long enough to do anything about it. This was an unrivaled and unique opportunity, and we missed it. I just laugh now. I laugh at what goes on because it seems to me to be so ludicrous. I regret it. I'm sorry about it. I grieve. It came in a series of stages, as most discoveries do. We had a terrible report recently about the old and lonely. People who technically they're being looked after, but actually they're slowly dying in the freezing cold, and they turn their lights on when the social workers come and turn them off again when they go.
But when you started out as a young radical on the left, what did you want? What was the world you saw?
I think what I thought was that a state governed by brilliant and benevolent people such as myself could tackle all the major problems of unemployment, hunger, and poverty. That's what people like that believe.
But
I was mistaken.
And did you want to soak the rich and?
Rich? I think I probably wanted to shoot the rich. You're terribly young, aren't you? You don't remember the sunny days spread out on the lawns of plate-glass universities in the late 60s and early 1970s, when we were completely immune from the world. We were paid to be there. We had maintenance grants. We didn't need to borrow money.
Because a lot of young people now think similarly to how you thought.
Yes, they do.
I just wonder whether you can say to them, you're wrong because we've tried it and it fails, or for any particular reason?
I'm not particularly interested in telling them that they're wrong. It's something that they wouldn't listen to me if I did, and it's something they will have to discover for themselves. They are wrong, so I can understand why they so very strongly think they're right. As soon as I began to earn a living, and I earned a living because I went into newspapers. I went into newspapers as a Bolshevik, intending to take over Fleet Street for my cause. So I was dealing with the sort of people I had taught myself to despise, and found that they were not despicable.
But was there a moment, or was it a process?
Of course, it's not a moment. No, everybody longs for people to have swoons and fainting fits and blinding flashes. No, you think. You resist the conclusions of your thoughts for a long time, and then you find that you've got to do one thing or the other. You've got to admit to yourself that actually what you believe is no longer true, and you have to abandon it, which many people don't do because it's painful, or you have to do that, and I did that.
I don't understand what the fuss is about. For someone to be wearing a hijab, to be on a reality TV show, or to be in an ad, it shouldn't even be something to comment on in any way other than this is really cool, this is representing a significant swathe.
Are we all supposed to have only one opinion about everything? My opinion is, actually, I've always advanced this as an attack on the anti-Christian new atheists who have made a huge effort to attack Christianity in this country, to remove it from the state and from the culture, to get it out of the House of Lords, to make this country officially un-Christian, and pointed out to them that they might not actually like it if another religion, particularly Islam, filled the space that was left by Christianity. And that's the main reason I've ever raised the subject at all. The hijab isn't just controversial here. It's controversial in the Middle East and in the whole Muslim world. And there's been a huge increase in hijab wearing. If you could return now to the Middle East or to Afghanistan of the 1970s, you'd hardly see it at all. What I do find is that having been brought up before the Cultural Revolution and believing in certain means of expression and speaking as far as possible in complete sentences and using English to its full power, I get accused of being pompous and indeed of being rude and dismissive simply for doing what comes naturally to me. If I adopted the demotic speech and an estuary accent and didn't finish my sentences, people would still hate me, but they wouldn't say that about me.
Is Nadia struggling with her vol au vent, wearing her hijab on British television in The Great Bake Off, a threat to British culture?
It's not a threat. British culture is dead on its feet anyway. British culture has been destroyed systematically by lots of other people over the past 40 or 50 years.
In your article, you said, one day we will have women in hijab on television in Parliament, and one day this will become normal.
Yeah,
and what is wrong with that? Why is that something that is to be alarmed or worried about?
I didn't say anything was wrong with it. A number of people wanted to have a fight with me about this,
right,
and wanted to suggest, and this is what happened on Twitter, they wanted to suggest that I was in some way embracing some sort of phobia.
But I think you should forgive people for reading that into your piece. When
no,
you say,
I won't forgive people. No, I won't forgive people for reading things into what I write that I haven't said.
You've had your say in the piece. You said that there is a gradual but unstoppable normalization or adaptation to Islam in this country. Does that language not sound alarmist to you, that you're basically striking a warning shots, gradual but unstoppable, assumes that there's something that we don't want to happen? Can you not see how that reads?
It doesn't actually assume that. It simply states it as a fact. I would prefer it if this country hadn't gone down the path of multiculturalism.
What you're really saying...
I'm really saying... Nazreen, I'm really saying what I'm really saying. Okay, I'm really writing what I'm really writing. To try and stuff meanings into what I say and write which aren't there.
I'm not.
Can I butt in just with a little question?
It's completely and utterly illegitimate. Okay. Culture and race are two utterly different things. The great hope in the world is precisely that people's cultures can change. If we believe that everything is fixed and cannot be changed, that is what makes people racial bigots. The whole aspect of religious belief came up a lot later.
And why?
Oh, as I always say, for reasons which are both extremely boring, crowned with cliché, and totally private. If you were able to waterboard me into saying what they were, you'd be bored stiff.
No. I mean, I don't seek to do that at all. But
not allowed to.
But you, in your writing, certainly seem to only get more fiery and more trenchant. I mean,
well, you say that. I mean, you introduced me as someone who was brought on television to be angry. I'm not. I'm not particularly angry.
You're not?
I don't think so. What would I be angry about? My father had been a naval officer. He had to be conscious of the world around him and developed pretty pessimistic views about it as a result of what he'd seen and experienced.
Lots of people are really interested in you and your brother, obviously, and have been for years and years and years.
They are.
Did you like him?
Not a lot, no. We fought a great deal.
Critics of yours will say, well, Peter Hitchens, he's a controversialist. He just wants to say...
Well, they will say that, won't they?
What goes against the grain.
But that's because they want to dismiss what I say. If you want to dismiss somebody's argument, then go for the person. Say, oh, he's just showing off.
When you're writing a column...
But it's not true.
It's not true.
No.
When you're writing a column, when you're tackling a particularly sticky subject... Do you ever think this is going to get people going? Or, I mean, do you have to do that as a columnist?
No, I don't think so. I've found that whenever I've striven for effect in anything I've ever done, it's failed. This sounds, when you first say it, as if it's an arrogant claim of personal superiority. It's not intended to be, nor is it in my view. I think I have a gift. It comes to me. And I use it, but if ever I try and seek effect on my own, simply by saying this might, then it doesn't work. I went a few months ago to address a meeting at a college in Oxford, and I was the object of a demonstration, and not just a demonstration, all kinds of leaflets had been written about me. I looked at them and I thought, in a slightly different society, not all that much further down the road of intolerance from the one that we're in, this could pretty much be the indictment at my show trial. The things that were said about me were partly true, skillfully twisted to make out that I had held different opinions from the ones that I do, and that I'd said things which I wouldn't say and wouldn't think, and in a not too distant future probably imprison me for what I think. They would have felt that their own opinions were so superior to mine morally. And that was a strong sense they got on this in one of our best universities, where people are supposed to be taught to think, which they're not, of course. They're taught how to think, but they're not taught how to think. They're taught what to think.
What I mean is, how do you know you're right now?
I don't know. I believe that I'm right.
You believe
that I'm right. Yeah. I don't know. And knowledge is not given.